Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the next edition of our In the Know webinar program from the RSL and Services Clubs Association, brought to you by our good friends at Max. Today's topic, re-engaging your community, is to talk about how we can rebuild confidence amongst our normal market and to encourage our members and patrons and their local communities to come back to our venues, that they know that they can be safe and that they'll continue to have those enjoyable experiences that they were used to having. So we have four very good industry professionals with us today who will be talking about various elements of that concept of re-engaging your community. And I remind you that down the bottom of your screen is a Q&A box. If you have a question for any of our presenters today, please type it in the Q&A box, and then I will ask that presenter at the end of their particular presentation your questions. So please do use that Q&A box if you wish. And I also remind you that these sessions are recorded and will be available for you to view from our website tomorrow. They will be loaded up onto our website tomorrow for people to view. So if there are other people in your venue or your friends or colleagues that you think should watch this, please make sure that you send them the link so that they can view the recording. All right, so today we have four professionals, as I said, who will be speaking to us on the various elements of the topic, re-engaging your community. And one of those, and our first presenter, is Janneke van der Sterren, who is the marketing manager at Bathurst RSL Club. And I'll take my slide down and invite Jan to load her presentation up for you. We've been working very closely with Bathurst RSL for some time, because some of you will recall our Respect the Day campaign that we've been running for Anzac Day for the last couple of years. And that started at Bathurst RSL with Jan. So it's great to have her here today. She's a very experienced professional in engaging her community. So welcome to you, Jan.
Thanks, Gary. So we've done a few things since COVID hit here at the Bathurst RSL Club. Our main sources of engagement have been our online meet raffles. We also made some changes to our entry rules during that sort of second wave of COVID-19, which made a big difference to the confidence that people had from our community in the club. We also have done some branding activities, mainly centred around buying locally and also looking at our continued community support. Our main sources of communication have been Facebook, Instagram, and then the traditional forms of advertising, radio and print. And we've really had a look at trends and reading public opinion, and that sort of formed a lot of what we've done. It influenced a lot of what we've done. Sorry. There we go. So our online meet raffles, our normal raffles we run on a Thursday, Friday and Saturday night and a Sunday afternoon. And generally they break even or sometimes lose money, but they obviously bring people into the club. We weren't able to do that. So during, in May, while we were still shut down, we started online raffles, and they were really successful, especially in the beginning. What it's been doing is it's driven people to our Facebook page and to our website. So we do our draw live on Facebook at 4 p.m. every Friday. And in that time, when we do our draw, we run little advertisements, you know, things like what our monthly bistro special is, or if we've got a beer special or whatever. So people who are watching the draw, we've got a bit of a captive audience there. And usually that's around, it can be 100 to 200 people watching the draw. So, or to 500 people, sorry. Yeah, so those people are a captive audience, and we are able to advertise to them, as well as them being on our Facebook page, so being able to engage with them in that way. It also allows us to engage with members who are reluctant to come into the club, and it has given us a way to make contact with people who aren't members. we're making a profit on our raffles. So the smallest profit that we've made to date on our online raffles has been $329, and our largest profit was $2,340. So that has been fantastic to make a little bit of money. And also every Thursday we send out a weekly SMS reminder. So that also engages the people that are buying the online raffle tickets. And it's amazing how effective those SMS messages are. And it's really shown me, you know, how good SMS can be. So we might, we'll send out, say, it's usually about 600 SMSs, and within half an hour we'll have made 51 sales, you know, around that amount. So it's been fantastic. So our online raffles have been wonderful. If anybody wants to know some more details on that, I'm happy to forward on the details of the company that we use. Yeah, online raffles are a great way to engage the community. Now, we changed our entry rule policy because in July it seemed like the second wave of COVID-19 was coming. We were worried about having to shut the club down again. Our customers were worried. We saw a drop in attendance. We were, you know, concerned that things were going to go back to how they were in March. So we decided to restrict entry. So we weren't allowing people in from Victoria, from the Blue Mountains, Albury and Sydney, the whole of Sydney. And which was quite controversial at the time, especially. I think we were one of the first clubs to make that decision. We sent out a press release to our local newspaper, and we put it on Facebook, and it just blew up. It was the biggest reaction on Facebook that we've ever had. So as you can see, I've put that Facebook post up there. So we had, you know, 10,617 engagements with that particular post, which is the most that we've ever had on anything. Other clubs also decided to implement that as a, you know, also. So we weren't the only ones after a little while. So the Western Advocate published a story on their front page on the 16th of July, and that was shared on their Facebook page. It also got picked up by the Canberra Times, the Daily Telegraph, the Australian, the Queensland Times, the Border Mail, News.com, Bega District News and the Mudgee Guardian. So that was in print. On TV it was on Prime 7 local news and the Channel 9 national news. And then it was picked up also, as well as on our local radio station, by Ben Fordham on 2GB. So he interviewed Peter about it, and then was shared by the Jonesy and Amanda show on their Facebook page. Now, the thing is that the reaction to this was actually overwhelmingly positive. Even when it was shared on a national level, people still agreed with the decision in general, and it gave our members confidence that we would make a decision that, even though it might not be in our best interests financially, potentially we're turning people away, our members feel safe that we will make decisions that are in the best interests of their health. And it has meant that our attendance has been steady and steadily growing, especially with our local community. Now, the thing is that once you make a decision like that, then you have to work out how you're going to get out of it again. And so we really kept a close eye on the media and on basically, you know, what public opinion was about shutdowns, etc. So we decided in September that we would lift the ban. We did it in time for the school holidays. First, we lifted the ban on the Blue Mountains, and we did it with not much fanfare. We essentially used the Blue Mountains as a bit of a tester to see how people would respond. We posted it on Facebook. The local paper did a story. It didn't really get that much reaction. People weren't that upset about it. So then we lifted the ban on Sydney. Now, we did it with good advice. I mean, obviously, New South Wales Health have been doing great work with contact tracing, and public sentiment was behind us. I think that by, you know, people were getting a little bit tired of the Queensland border being shut, and, you know, we read it, and once we posted it and we made that decision, the Western Advocate wrote, you know, ran a story, and people really didn't respond that much to it. We only got sort of 32 likes, and I mean the post itself, that was all we did. We sort of did it with not much fanfare, and we came out of it. So because we were a bit worried that once you make a big decision like that, it's difficult to get out of. But if we managed to time it right, and yeah, managed to reopen to the general public just in time for the race as well. Now, another thing we've done, obviously we haven't got anything really major to promote. We've got no, you know, members draws or no entertainment, no major promotions. So we have decided to really concentrate on our branding over this period. One of the things that we've really looked at is sort of buy local, and promoting the fact that a lot of what we use is Australian made. We changed a big example of that is our milk company, that our milk supplier, we changed to the Little Big Dairy Company. They're a company based in Dubbo. So even though Dubbo is a little way away, it's still a Central West business. So we can term it as being local. As you can see, that has received a really good response on Facebook as well. So 995 engagements on Facebook. This is a topical sort of issue. People want to know that you're using Australian products, and they especially like it when you use local products. And this is a very good product to use as well. So we just ticked all the boxes. So it was a really good way of branding our business, doing the right thing by our community, and promoting the fact that we do use Australian made products. Oh, that was a radio ad, sorry. Now, another thing that we did is we looked at promoting our community engagement. So we ran a promotion in the Grind, that's our hole in the wall coffee shop, and we raised money for Lifeline on World Mental Health Day. We just thought that this was timely. Mental health is obviously a big issue at the moment with COVID-19, and this was another way for us to connect with our community. That really didn't cost us particularly much money. I think we ended up donating $120 from the day, but it got us a lot of good feeling, and it's a really good cause. Obviously, Lifeline is a great organisation, and we've got a very close relationship with Lifeline. So this was also promoted by our local paper, got picked up by our local paper. They shared it on Facebook. We promoted it on radio. They did that for free. So it gave us a lot of promotion for a very good cause. So doing things like that obviously are fantastic. And also one of the things, we gave $500 to Meadow Flat Public School for them to do tennis lessons, and we promoted that on Facebook. So people want to have a good news story, so we should be giving that to them at the moment. Most clubs do great things within the community. People want to hear about it. Also, social media is social. People don't want to be advertised to all the time, but they do want to know what's happening in their community. And when you're part of that, that's a great way. So, you know, through social media is a great way of telling your story and what you're doing in the community. So just don't forget, if you're doing stuff like that, let people know about it. Now, one thing I would really stress is for people to develop good relationships with their local media organisations, especially at times like this, because we have received really good support from our local radio station and our local newspaper. I just wanted to use this as an example. So these two articles came out in the same week. So obviously we've been talking about, you know, cashless poker machines and all of that sort of thing has been coming out, but our local paper gave us a really good, fair hearing, interviewed both clubs, wrote a really good story about it and actually put our point of view across in a really good way. And the reaction, I mean, we could have had a lot of negative reaction to a story like that in the paper, but really the reaction was pretty minimal. On the other hand, the very next day, they ran the story about our involvement with Lifeline, and that got a lot more comments and likes and, you know, than the story about poker machines. If you have a good relationship with your local media, they will listen to your side of the story. So I would really recommend fostering that and doing a bit of advertising with them, even when it might not seem like it's doing you as much good as using your social media. It's always a good investment. So that's about all that I've got to talk about. If anybody has any questions, if you'd like to send me an email or give me a call anytime, please feel free.
Thank you, Jan. I will be showing at the end of all the presentations the contact details for each of our presenters. So I'll show Jan's email address and mobile phone number if you have any follow-up. I do have one question for you, Jan, and that's come from Mark. He's interested to know how the regulatory authorities, liquor and gaming authorities, have been towards you in the last few months as clubs have, you know, struggled with restrictions, etc. Have they been showing any more latitude and any more flexibility, or have they continued to be, you know, quite tough in their policing of clubs' regulatory requirements?
Look, as far as the COVID-19 thing goes, we get walkthroughs and whatnot, but because we are so compliant, and we're compliant in every way, where, I mean, you know, it's something that we work on, you know, work hard on. So we have been pretty lucky. While we've had people check on us for COVID-19 restrictions, other than that, everything's been pretty good. And because we are so compliant, we're one of the, I think we're considered to be in the region one of the best sort of clubs as far as being COVID-19 safe. So we've been pretty lucky, yeah.
Good. The other question I have is with regard to your Buy Local campaign.
Yep.
That does resonate with local communities everywhere, and it's a very positive campaign. How you've done it with your milk supplies. How much have you gone into your dining options and the food options and emphasised the local products that you're utilising in throughout the club, not just in the milk and the coffee?
Yep, so we ran a radio campaign because 90%, we worked out, we went through everything that we use in our kitchen, and 90% of what we use in our kitchen is actually Australian made. You have to be really careful. It's not always Australian owned, but it is, we worked out it was Australian made. So we ran a radio campaign letting people know that. Also, we have with our online raffles, so our meat raffles, we were doing, all our meat is locally sourced. So a lot of our meat comes from places like Oberon or Cowra or, you know, the local region. And we were doing fruit and vegetable boxes as well from a local supplier. So we promoted that as well. So yeah, we have been continuing that on, and we will continue to you know, to promote the fact that we're using local suppliers.
Excellent. Well done. Well, thank you very much, Jan, for your presentation. If you could take your slides down now. Our next presenter is Todd Spry, who's the marketing manager at our corporate partner, Daily Press. We're delighted to work with Daily Press. They provide all of our digital and our graphic design. And we've just loaded a new website that's been developed and designed by Daily Press as well. So we're delighted to have Todd Spry here to join us. And Todd, if you want to load up your slides. So if you want to check out our new website, it's not fully finished yet. We're still trying to get all the information loaded on it. But visit our website at rslservicesclubs.com.au. because that's where, if you want to watch the recording of today's video, you need to see it as well. But welcome, Todd, and thank you for your participation today.
Thanks, Gary, and it's great to be talking to everybody today. My presentation is on content, and Jan has actually touched upon a lot of the great aspects of content, particularly branded content, and how a lot of organisations now realise the power of branded content to reach their audiences and particularly engage with communities in time when they can't undertake tactical promotions, get people through the property with offers and specials. So it's really about telling that bigger picture. So to start with, from an overall content and re-engagement from a community perspective, I'd like to say that you need to understand what your brand is, what you actually stand for. So what's unique in your business that separates you from all your other competitors within the local community or the local market? Before you go ahead and actually drive your content out to the market, know who your customers are and who you actually want to reach. That's really, really important, because when you come down to scheduling and planning your content, you want to obviously get maximum return on your investment. And that comes back to what your goals are, or what do you want to achieve with the content that you're actually going to send out. And finally, as part of that overall content strategy is, how are you going to deliver the content? I see a lot of organisation, they get some photography, they shoot a video, they stick it on a website. It doesn't go anywhere, or they might just use a one outlet such as social media. They get some good reach, but there's many opportunities if you can think through your content planning and content strategy, that you can reach a larger audience when you have an integrated campaign approach. So on the right of the slide is just how content strategy comes together by connecting your brand vision with your customers. Then I'll just talk briefly about content planning, particularly around content pillars. If you haven't got content pillars in place, it's really important that you do look at that, because it gives you some real clear directions as to where you want to go. And then obviously the content calendar and delivery of your content to your audience. People say content is king. I go, is it? It's really content I see is that it has to have the right purpose, and it has to be delivered the right way to actually achieve some of your goals. Like I said before, a lot of people just develop their own, develop content, write messaging, shoot photography, videography, and they actually don't know what to do with it. So branded content is really, really important, like I said earlier, because it really talks to your heart and soul of your business and what you actually stand for. So it creates that real interest factor at an emotional level with your readers or your viewers. When I talk branded content, it's not your fish and chip specials, or it's not just your happy hours. It's about having those real stories with real people, which Jan talked about and has obviously done a fantastic job with talking about locally made and Australian made content. So it's not really about that selling point. It's about getting those strong emotional connections to really lift your brand perception in the marketplace. And what you'll see is that branded content will have a lasting impact. Unfortunately, a lot of organisations focus on the tactical because they're looking at driving that bottom line revenue number, which is so important. But you need to understand that the brand sits above everything that's tactical. It will have that slow burn and will have that positive impact and generate foot traffic and revenue in the long run. So the number of executions, I guess, to the right it's interesting from Mounties. I believe what I've seen, and we work with Mounties really closely, that their content, particularly their branded content, because they really understand that they are at the centre of the community, that they do really well. But another one of our clients, I've just done a screenshot of an animation that they've done. And you can see the variety of partners that they have. So you can see the variety of interesting content that if you plan it out properly, you can generate so many different unique stories that really impact on who you are. To understand your brand from a branding perspective, if you haven't done this exercise before, I'd strongly hope that you do take time and get to understand your brand. Once you understand your brand, then it makes everything else becomes a lot more clearer, and it helps you to develop those branding content strategies. People can take this away. The positioning statement here, we're more than a club, we're a community. I think that probably transcends across a lot of RSL organisations, what their brand promise is. So if they come back to the brand, everything that they do, they're trying to foster those connections with their members. And like I said before, branded content is at an emotional level. There's functional, tactical execution contents that we all need to do, but for some reason, a lot of people overlook the importance of branded content. So once you understand your brand, I go into the phase of understanding the pillars that really represent your entire organisation. And if you just look at this, just a simple content planner, you can see how I've grouped some really topical or top-line headlines, of which you can then build out a number of different story angles underneath that, which will give you really clear directions before you go and look at producing some of your content. So I've started from community. I've put that really at that emotional awareness level, right down to your promotions and specials, which is more about that tactical lever that you pull to drive your customers to your venue. So content's pillars are great, but what I'd like to say is that before you even think about going into production, before you go and make that video, think about where you're going to place that piece of material. You can either do it just as a single site or a single channel placement, but I really strongly advise that you look at an overall campaign, and Jan touched upon it, how there's multiple different channels that you can use, whether it's social, blogs, again, promoted in venues. Most people have got digital screens through your database, and then use traditional media, PR, and the news to really understand and capture a greater and broader audience to connect with your branded content. Think about your timing and frequency as well when you're starting to schedule that out. And then a lot of people do somehow think that branded content comes for free. Sometimes it does, if you've got the right story angle, but you do need to set a bit of a budget behind, particularly if you're going to do videos and animations, which are going to really bring your branded content to life. So when we get into content production, and we have a team here of photographers, as Gary said, videographers, animators, graphic designers, web developers. We also do that content planning from really understanding and crafting those storytelling ideas with clients. So it's got real presence, and it's not reverting back to that hard sell and driving people to the venue. It stays on message. Videos and animations are great. They do show and tell your story a lot more than you can do with words or just photography. We all know that, but still people don't understand the power, particularly of creating small bite-sized pieces that can form part of a broader story. So what the team at Daily Press help with is storyboarding, the scripting, the filming, and creating those different edits so they are relevant to the channel that you're going to execute with. Other options to get that great content is set up interviews, do vox popping, You've got your own staff. Don't forget about your staff because they are intrinsic to your communities. Speak to your members, get out there and speak to your community groups. When developing videos or animations, you know, you can go longer on YouTube and your website and LinkedIn. Some people go way too long. I like to say that, you know, if you're going over 2 minutes for LinkedIn or website, it's way too much. I like to actually keep it under 1 minute. And social media, you want to do little bite-sized stories between 15, 30 seconds, no more than 30 seconds when you put it on social media, particularly if you're doing paid ads. Different if you're doing organic posts, you can go longer. But it's really important to evaluate and look at some of your results because people believe that if they see lots of clicks or lots of views, that means people have watched the entirety of your videos. What you'll find is that a lot of people, you know, will disengage after that 3 to 10 seconds. So be very clear with your messaging, be punchy up front, and where possible, keep them short. Just a couple of examples where West Illawarra, Campbell Town Catholic Club, they did a couple of videos talking about how they support the community with community grants. And then they published them via a number of channels, including their social media on their website, and they've used it for staff motivation as well. Finally, from a content perspective, is execute. But when you execute, make sure you monitor and report. And Jan showed us examples of just monitoring Facebook and to see the engagement levels that different posts or different stories were having. The beauty of social media or the digital world, you can actually craft slightly different messages and you can test and learn to see what has the greatest impact. So don't be afraid of doing variations and putting slight different graphics or voiceovers or messaging behind some of your videos or your animations. We worked with Mounties, as I said before. I really enjoy what they do from a community engagement with what they do with branded content. That's just a screen grab of Dale posting on his LinkedIn feed. It was talking to their safe venue practices post-COVID or during COVID, and that was just before that they were reopening their venues. So again, there was a 31 minute and I think a 2-minute 30 video that we helped produce with Mounties that got significant engagement, particularly across the LinkedIn channel. Men League, it's not an RSL, but it is a charitable organisation that we might all know about. They were really smart in that they developed a series of little videos talking about women and women's involvement with their organisation. This is all about a brand perception change, being Men of League and what they currently stand for. They obviously want to broaden their appeal to a wider cross-section of the rugby league family. So they did a series of these posts, which they ran across their social networks and across their website and EDMs. And finally, it's an interesting one that this is on the West Tamworth's website. People are coming to websites and we can steer them to our websites, particularly with social and digital media. And the majority of people have got the community support page on their site, but they've got a little video embedded as well. I know some people have got their community support. There may be just text, there may be text and images, but if you put another form of media such as a video or an animation, it just brings that to life a little bit more. So that's pretty much all I was going to deliver today, just to give you a snapshot of the importance of branded content and how to go about it if you're not already doing it. But it's really also looking at being prepared and thinking about content planning as your overall business strategy, so that you're always telling unique, different stories that are going to engage with the community.
Thank you very much, Todd. Very comprehensive. And as you can see, Daily Press is a company you need to be working with, because they really do get this service and this program. And I can talk firsthand about how excellent they've been for us. So let me just check. I think I might have one question here. The question is, the entire world has been cocooning in their domestic worlds. Have there been any clues as to how to reverse this cocooning mindset and cut through their learnt behaviour of opting out of messages they normally opted into? Todd, can you answer that?
Well, that's a pretty high level question. You know, it's about if they've already opted out of what you provide them, it's a little bit hard to re-engage with them from, you know, a direct communications. But if they see stuff like I say, the community goodwill that clubs bring, which you can develop some of that content and you can serve it up via their social media outlets or get media to cover it, you know, hopefully they will see the benefits of re-engaging with you. Unfortunately, when you get sales messages thrown down, you know, thrown at you all the time, it's quite easily to disengage and opt out. So I'm not sure if that answers the question directly, but I would be saying keep up with branded contents and try different channels to reach that audience that you may have lost.
Thanks, Todd. All right, if you can take your slides down now. Our third presenter, ladies and gentlemen, is the Association's own Marketing and Communications Manager, Brad Smith. And some of you, or most of you, would be aware of the work we have been doing in the last couple of years, last few years, to try and support you, our member clubs across the state, by letting the world know about the great work that RSL and services clubs do and some of the many programs that we fund and support. And Brad has management of that process of ensuring that the good work that clubs are doing and that our association is doing on behalf of clubs is conveyed to the media, to the community, and to the government and to the public. So Brad, would you like to load up your slides and talk about some of the work that the association's been doing to support our member clubs?
Sure. Thanks, Gary. Good afternoon, everyone. Today's webinar is one that I've had to work on recently, or be heavily involved in, I should say, with COVID hitting us. So I'm going to talk about building engagement across your community from the various programs that we do, like Gary's just said, there's KOLC, there's VBF, the last post, the list goes on. I'm probably only going to touch on a couple of things that that are more important at the moment. So I'm gonna. So this slide here, stronger together. These two words, I wanted to show our club community, our members, and our corporate partners that, you know, it's a very, very, very tough time at the moment, and we wanted to show that we are supporting you and we have your back, and we're going to get through this together. You know, stay strong, and we'll get you out the other side. This was from 2019 in our strategic plan. So I said to Gary that I wanted to reuse this and use this in all our communications to be stronger together. To put a strong face there for our clubs and our members. What I'm going to talk about now is the association and the work we do by working with member clubs. Your success is central to the reason why we exist. We rely on communication from you to get your word out there, to help you have a voice. Like Respect Today campaign that we work with Bathurst RSL, they had that out there first, and we said, let us help you get the word out there and put it towards our bigger audience into member clubs and get more people involved. So for us, the more content we receive from our member clubs, we can get out there. Like the most, through COVID, Pittwater RSL is an example there you see on the screen. We look at what you're doing on social media and what you're putting out there in your communications, and we will make contact with you if we really think it's relevant and for this time, and put it out, help push it out there through our social media channels and EDMs and so on. So for us, we want to work with you in getting that message out there. What your message you have, whether it's an event or pretty much anything that you have, we'll put it out there, whether you're big or small, what location you're in. The more content I have, the better it is for me to, and makes my job easier, as Gary will know, because he's the one who sends me content from your pages as well. So we're always monitoring what's happening. So yeah, content is king is what Todd was saying as well. Content is king for us to get your message out there into your community and to our wider community. As Gary said, we've got a number of different services and programs that the association run. The list is there. You may be aware of some of them. There's some that you may not be. During COVID, or just before COVID hit, we started to do a Visit Regional New South Wales campaign to get people out there in different communities, because we can't travel overseas anymore. We want people to visit clubs and what's in that local region, and we were getting clubs to write to us and to give us information on what they do and what there is in the local area and what facilities the clubs have. So we're going to start that back up now that the restrictions are getting easier and they're being lifted and the border restrictions have eased. The Respect the Day campaign has probably been a very, very successful one on the back of the amazing work that Bathurst RSL did. We just wanted to put a bit more, I don't know, we wanted to create more visual content, put a song to it and make it more engaging for the younger demographic that we're trying to attract with that. Another one of our programs going on the younger demographic is the Kokoda Youth Leadership Challenge, which I'll touch on in a minute. That for us is very important to engage your new members for your club, your future members as well, and their parents and their friends and so on. Like, they help build your next lot of community members. So, as I said, Kokoda Youth Leadership Challenge. We heavily use social media for Kokoda. Not sure if everyone knows about our program. We run this every year, and we have done so since 2005, and we've sent over 600 young people across the Kokoda Trail, which is about $3 million plus that member clubs or clubs have spent on leadership development on the youth in their local areas. As I was saying, social media is very important to engage with them because they don't read emails. It's very hard to communicate with them with all important things that I have to. So I turn to social media, creating private groups so I can give them information there and then so they can't say they didn't get it. I'll hit them with every way possible. Emails, phone calls, text messages, so on, so I know that it gets to them. We also encourage them to use social media to document their experience and their challenge. It's from day one we meet them and we'll tell them to take videos of their training and their gear preparations and to tag the club and to tag us to tag the club who sponsors them, to tag us so we can monitor what they're doing and use that in the media, in the local media, in their newspapers, and help them promote themselves and the club. It's just encourages young people to get out there and do something different and engage with their local club and give back to them for sponsoring, paying that money to sponsor them in the Kokoda Youth Leadership Challenge. We get in that as well. With our posts, we heavily use photos and videos, either created and shared by the trekkers themselves. So you can see a couple of examples here. One is them at the airport, them on the trail. We put up their posts every day, on not their posts, but Venture Good Coders posts, and we'll let the parents know where they are, what they did that day, that they're safe, so they can follow along as well. So we're also building our audience with their parents, with their family. So we get not only the 60 plus kids each year to like and follow our pages and to engage, we get their family, their friends, their school, and their club, and the club can share this on as well. So we get quite a heavy engagement during Kokoda season for us. So social media for us is very important to reach this particular demographic. The Veterans Benevolent Fund is another program that we look after. This is a totally different audience for us. This is a veteran-specific community, and which is also in line with the club space. We rely on clubs supporting us and the work that we do, but we also raise money by creating different events that will include the veterans community to get right behind us, and with the backing of the clubs. So some of the things that we do is using social media, but also using the clubs to help promote this particular program. So an example I've got there on the side is the Western Sydney Sevens Diggers Cup. So we helped with our marketing and what we can do to help get this out there in that local area of Lidcombe, but also in Western Sydney. And we had a far reach working with them and getting into Fiji, PNG, and New Zealand, and attracting high quality teams with the focus on our diggers. So our message was, we've got to always be aware of the different messages we're sending and who it's to. So what Todd was touching on is making sure you have the right messages in your message boards, and what key things you want to get across by using specific medias and content and how it looks and branded and so on. So we've really stepped that up since I've come on board. I'm really passionate about having really clean, clear and branded content, and you might have seen that over the years that we've really focused heavily on getting our brand out there and to our members into our community, and heavily promoting what we do, and also our corporate partners as well. Another thing that we look after and help support and sponsor is the last post ceremony. We have 17 member clubs who sponsor this, as well as RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland. We engage with the Australian War Memorial, and they provide this 365 days a year, same time every day, and people in their lounge rooms from all over the world come tune in and watch this. We also encouraged our member clubs who are involved in this specifically to have marketing material in their clubs to show that they sponsor this, and also are showing this in their venue, whether it's on Facebook or their YouTube channels. It's very important the way you use so many different vehicles to get your message across, and the last post ceremony is in line with what our clubs are doing for veterans and remembrance services. So this is making that other connection, is having Australian War Memorial tag us in what they do every day, and having that consistent branded message will help grow your audience as well, or helps us grow our audience to our members. A few vehicles that we have, and something that we've created recently and what you're watching today, is the In the Know webinars. During COVID, we had to change the way we do things, because most of our events and programs rely on participation in person and so on. So we had to continue providing information and creating a digital event. And this is where the In the Know webinars come from, where we can still get some messages across and key information of what's happening in the industry, and you hear from expert panel, just like today, minus myself. it's another way to engage a different audience. Everyone's on their computers a lot more now and can watch from anywhere, whether it's on their lunch break, they can re-watch this again. So we found this as a new vehicle for us to, and another opportunity to engage our audience. And like I mentioned before, we were already doing e-newsletters, and that was our very main way we communicated with our members, apart from social media as well. And we still find this very successful. This is our main thing, and we've upped it to doing it fortnightly. So with us saying that we have different how do I say it, audiences, we have to hit them in different ways. We have to put this in front of them as much as we can, so we can get that message out there and get them in. You know, they may not get them in email, but we'll get them on Facebook later on, or we'll get them on YouTube or so on. But just before COVID hit, we just launched our new digital and printed magazine, which was Focus. Focus is very informative, and we rely on content, like I was saying earlier, from clubs or what's happening in the industry to, you know, give us a different way to reach you, to give you the information that's out there. We had to stop printing a physical copy because some of our directors still like to read physical magazines. So we're still keeping in touch with and being aware of how we can market and put our messages out there. So we've got our last publication for the year coming up soon. Our content's, like I said, we rely on it from corporate partners and what's happening in the industry. So if there's something that you have that you think is important that our wider audience should know, let us know, send me an email. More than happy to answer any questions around those 3 things that we do there. But that's me done.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Brad. Very comprehensive. And as Brad said, I'll show you his email address and mobile phone number. We rely on clubs and partners to send us content for our e-newsletters, our Facebook posts, etc. Our final speaker is somebody I've known for 18 years, for 17 years, I think, Andrew Butler, who works for a company called Wilkinson Butler. And they are our media managers. They're the people we use to help us when we want to engage with the print and broadcast media. And so, Andrew, would you like to load your slides up, please? And Andrew will cover that key area of getting that message out to the broader community. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Gary. Look, I'm going to tie a bow in it before everyone gets all zoomed out for the afternoon. So really, what are the lessons that we can learn from both Brad's experience here and also Jan at Bathurst RSL? And I think the key takeouts there are you really need to be true to your mission. And as you can see from what the association's doing today, wherever you can, find alternatives to what you've done before, but do it better. You could argue that the association are reaching a bigger audience by doing exercises like this than they were historically. Now, the other challenge there that Jan mentioned, it's difficult, but think long term. And Jan and the Bathurst RSL took a very bold move by restricting the where people could come from into the club. Now, obviously, cash flow would have been a major driver for their concerns, but they took the long-term view and said, no, we're interested in our community. We're all about our community. And it was a really bold move and clearly paid off. And I think there's lessons for us all there. Lastly, I think it's really important to go over the top on COVID safety. And to answer that question earlier, I would actually think about COVID safety as a potential content pillar that Todd was talking about. This is actually a focus that you can have in the comms that you're going out to reassure your members and a wider audience that in fact that you're taking every bit of precaution to look after their health and safety. Now, in terms of lessons from Todd's presentation. I think, again, really being true to your brand, really being true to your heart and your soul. As well as content is king, I think my takeaway from Todd was really community is king. And that goes to most clubs. Their USP really is about their role in their community. Really, I think another takeaway was you integrate your activities and tie them to your business plan. And that idea of content pillars or campaigns is a really good way of organising your content, but also, from my perspective, organising your media engagement. So in terms of where we are now, we're likely to have a significantly long tail to the COVID experience. I'm not Nostradamus by any means, but clearly some of the trends that are coming out from remote working is that people are heading back to the suburbs, that we're seeing the rebirth of the high street, which for many of you is likely to be a key advantage. We're seeing people head back out to the country as well with tree changes. Because we can communicate and engage and do it effectively across ICT. And we're also seeing that there are alternatives to public transport use, that people are shying away from public transport. And again, I think that's going to have a long tail. So we need to think about that, particularly of those of you that have locations close to public transport assets and hubs and were previously relying on foot traffic. You need to be thinking about that. And for a long time, going back to going over the top on COVID safety, alcohol consumption will continue to stay high, but it's about hand sanitizer. So we're all going to need to be really focused on that. So how do we consolidate these lessons? And for particularly around media engagement? And first and foremost, we need to strive for authenticity. It needs to be real, and going back to both, or all of the presenters today, it needs to come to the heart and soul of who you are, whether you see that through a brand perspective or whether you see that through purpose. It just really needs to be authentic. So clearly, on the back of this, most of you have probably developed new business plans in light of COVID, but really you think about, okay, well, what are our communication strategies that we build around those new plans? So as Todd said, start with your purpose, start with your brand, your reason for being. That's the place that you begin, and then you work outwards. And another exercise, as everyone has said, is start thinking about your audience or your key stakeholder groups. So your members, your non-members, community groups, staff, and think about the demographics within those. Start breaking them up and thinking about how can we appeal to all of those audiences and all of those stakeholders within them. Now, really, another interesting thing that Jan mentioned was the idea of observing trends and public opinion. That was really clever, because it's a really important point that you need to think about, well, where's the community heading? So not just read the papers and chat to members who are coming in the door. Have a think about surveying members potentially. Have a think about, well, how can we actually get the view of other community groups and NGOs and local MPs? Go out and engage these people and think about, well, where is the community need? And if you have positive relationships with journalists, I really encourage you to have a chat with them about, okay, what's the community feel around these issues? Where do you think we could help? And then consolidate that. So, okay, how can we help as a community? As a club, what is our role in this community? Who of those stakeholders that we've thought about, who are those that are really in need? And we saw from Todd that the Campbelltown Catholic Club, they had a promotion of White Ribbon, which is obviously centred on domestic violence, which has gone completely out of control in the midst of COVID and the stresses. Are there programs, or are there things that you can do to help particularly on that issue, or others that are very similar? I think it's really important, if you are an RSL or a services club, I think it's really important to keep veterans at the heart of what you're doing. I think that's super important, again, going back to your call. But there are things that you can do within your venue, whether it's targeted commercial offers or special deals, like we're seeing that Jan did, the meat raffles and so forth, the online exercises. But are there also things that you can do beyond your club, whether it's how you allocate your discretionary grants funding and the community groups that you engage through that way? So once you've done that strategic process of thinking about your purpose, thinking about your audiences and stakeholder groups, and then thinking about how you might help them through renewed programs and focuses, then it's about, okay, let's engage, let's get these initiatives off the ground and tell your story. And it's really important to use other people as well to tell that story. So other voices, it's really important. And if you can use community groups and other partners that you've engaged, or recipients of grant funding, all the better. And don't be shy away that if you end up with a story that's just got your club's name mentioned once in the story and you're a small part of it, that's not a huge problem. Just think about, okay, this is about authenticity. And that's the thing with PR, is what it does for everyone. It tells an authentic story. That's why it's so different from the traditional marketing and advertising. Readers really go, right, okay, this is something that I'm really taking away from. Now, the other thing to think about is, okay, think about the medium. There's some opportunities to tell some really rich stories here, and what is the best medium to be telling those stories? So is it radio? Is it print? Is it TV? Obviously, radio is a great thing, particularly sort of a talkback format is really good for longer community interest pieces. Print is quite easier, but you need to also think about the headline, picture and paragraph, and do as much of the work for a journalist as possible when you're telling your story. So if you're thinking, okay, we've got a great partnership with a local white ribbon, we've invested $2,000 in it, get the great big novelty check, and think about where you're going to take the photo, and it might be underneath the club sign, and have everyone there, maybe the local MP as well. Think about how you're going to make this as engaging as possible and as easy for the journalist. Now, TV is great as well, but again, you need to be thinking about the visuals and the visual opportunities that are going to tell the story, and then also make sure it gets you in the narrative. Now, social media, obviously huge opportunity. If media doesn't bite, then you can use social media as your own media. I would definitely lend towards video content. Obviously, it has the highest engagement. Think about also transcribing the vocals or audio. And there are functions within Facebook that enable you to upload that. So obviously people can see what's going on when they've got the sound down on the train or whatever. Hence the mobile first mindset. As I say, always think about using other voices, other partners. It really adds to your authenticity. And if media does bite, then that's another opportunity to throw whatever media coverage you've got, pop it into your social media, and maybe put a bit of budget behind it to boost it, to increase that audience. We've found that very effective way, combining traditional media and social media. It's a really good way of getting engagement. Again, because of that authenticity. They're not seeing it as an ad or a piece of marketing. They're seeing this as stories. And why do we bother? Why do we bother going through this process of thinking about, you know, our purpose, and thinking about our audiences, and thinking about how we're evolving these stories? Well, one, they're going to be authentic, and yes, it is in a way marketing. But two, in these sort of times when people are in crises, if you're there with them, if you're there in the trenches, hence this picture, they will remember. You will have love in the bank for a long, long time. If you can start to move the needle on some of the key issues that are facing your community now, they will not forget. And you may have some issues and challenges in the future, and that love in the bank, you'll be able to cash that in. And as Jan showed before, there were all this discussion about gaming venues and gaming cards and so forth. Where she was seeing the most engagement was the positive story. And if you're doing well on telling these stories, not only will you see more people come through the door and opportunities for engaging them on marketing activities, but they'll love you for longer. Thank you.
Excellent. Well done, Andrew. And you did a fantastic job of wrapping everything up there. And I very much appreciate the presentation you provided, as I do with all of our presentations that we've had today. I think you'll agree with me that there's been quite a lot of information provided to you. So I would encourage you, if you wish to to remind yourself of it, to watch the recording tomorrow. It'll be loaded on our website and you'll be able to watch it again at your leisure, because there was a lot of content there. And if any of you do want any of those PowerPoint presentations, just let me know and we can get a copy of it to you, emailed to you. But thank you very much to Jan, to Todd, to Brad and to Andrew for a comprehensive program. Now I'll show you their contact information. So there's the email addresses and mobile phone numbers of each of our presenters here today. If you don't get a chance to write them down, please contact me and I can put you in contact with any of them. All 4 presenters would be more than happy to hear from you, to answer your questions or to provide any further detail on some of the points that they've made today. Next topic next week, in 2 weeks' time, on Wednesday the 4th of November, is the topic New Innovations in Hospitality Management. And we've got a range of speakers there looking at different elements of our management and services that we provide to members and what some of the new ideas are that have been developed in the last few months. And as I said, go to our website, rslservicesclubs.com.au, where you are able to watch any of our past webinars and watch them time and again if there is content there that you need to. So, today's webinar will be loaded up on tomorrow on the website. But that's all from us from today. Thank you all very much for your participation, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.